I'm getting ready to finish up a hike in the Myakka State Forest, which is near Englewood, Florida, kind of the southwestern part of the state, a bit south of Sarasota. That gives you an idea of location. It's just me today. I'm actually out exploring part of south central Florida by myself for a few days, while Jesse hung back and stayed on Anna Maria Island. The area I'm going to explore had some questionable cellular service, and Jesse works a little more of a standard 9-to-5 schedule than I do. So if I don't have cell service somewhere right away, I can always get out, find cell service, get my work done. But she needs to be available during the day. So she's quote unquote stuck on Anna Maria Island next to a beach in a rented condo. I don't think she's suffering, other than the fact that she has to stare at the beach all day while working. A lot of our videos show us doing hiking and kayaking and getting out and doing fun exploration, which many people don't realize, I guess, would be part of the working from the road lifestyle. Means at least 80% of our time is spent either sitting at the campsite or in the rig working on our laptops. But if we did videos on those, it'd get really boring really fast and you wouldn't want to watch them. So we stick to videoing the fun stuff that we do. So yesterday I drove down to Myakka State Forest, and there is a state forest campground here where I stayed last night. I was in a tent-only site, which means I couldn't back into it. But because I have the van, it was small enough, I just parked in the parking area and essentially camped in the parking spot, but stayed at a really nice, peaceful campground. It's only about 10 sites, and one of those is for the camp host. They're really well spread out. You have a lot of privacy. It's super quiet in there. It's actually gated. When you make a reservation, you get the gate code so you can enter and set up camp. I said there's about 10 sites. I would say at least half of them are back-in sites. So if you had a small RV, you could get in there with it. And then the rest are just tents only with parking spaces. One thing that was interesting I discovered is that unlike Michigan, which we use as our home base for information, and our reference point is in Michigan, the state forest campgrounds are all first come, first serve. You only need reservations if you are camping at a state park in Michigan. In Florida, not only do you need reservations at state parks, but you also need them at most of the state forest campgrounds. And there are about 40, a little more than 40 state forests in Florida, and a little more than half actually have camping available. I noticed from the brochure that some of them actually have RV hookups. So that's also different. We're not used to that. The one I stayed at last night here at Myakka is in fact a rustic campground. There are a couple of vault toilets, and there's a nearby ranger station where they sell firewood, and they have a spigot set up so you can get potable water if you need it. But other than that, you're on your own and need to be self-contained. It's called the Flying A Campground. And if you get a chance, you have a rig small enough and you can be self-sustained for a day or two, I'd check it out. In addition to the campground being nice and quiet, it was also very dark. So the dark sky was nice to enjoy last night. Not something we're getting to see enough of lately. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm out on the hiking trail here in Myakka State Forest. There are several of them. The two main ones seem to be the North Loop and South Loop trails. The North Loop is about 6 miles. The South Loop is almost 7.5. They say they're open to hiking and biking and horses. I think they'd be great for horses. I think they're okay for hiking. Mountain biking, if you had a good mountain bike, particularly if you had a fat tire bike, you do really well out here. They're very sandy trails in sections, quite deep. So when I tried both the North and South last night on my bike, it wasn't happening. My bike's just not set up to do this. But I was able to recon a little bit and figure out where I wanted to hike today, which worked out well. According to all trails, the North Loop is considered easy and the South Loop is considered moderate. So I went for the South Loop, figuring I'd look for a little more of a challenge, and there was a way to not do the full 7.5 mile loop. So I liked that, because I just didn't have time to do the whole thing. But what you can do is you start out on the South Loop trail from the trailhead, and then it'll intersect in about a mile with the Forsman Trail. And you can take the Forsman Trail for a while, and then it intersects again with the South Loop. And then you can take that back to the parking area in the trailhead. So it's about a 3-mile loop if you do it that way. And I should have mentioned, the trailheads are about a 1/4 mile from the campground. So if you wanted to walk up there, you could. I knew I was going to be on my way out, so I decided just to drive the van down to the parking area. There's a good sized parking area with bathrooms and stuff there if you need them. So that's nice. From what I've seen of the North and South Loop trails, they're nothing super exciting. I don't know why the South Loop is rated moderate. Although, according to All Trails and some of the reviews on there, if you do the whole trail, there are sections of it apparently that flood quite a bit depending on the season and the amount of rain. And from what people were writing, I mean flood, like ankle deep to knee deep water. So maybe it gets tougher in some of those spots. But for the most part, and on the 3 miles I did today, it's mostly what you can see behind me here. It's kind of like a Forest Service road. And it's not always sandy, sometimes it's grass covered, but nothing too difficult, certainly no elevation changes or anything. People have noted that they've seen wildlife out here. Feral hogs and armadillos, lots of birds. I saw evidence of critters today. I didn't see any critters. I was probably out a little later in the morning than I should have been. I got a late start for various reasons. I did see several different bird species. Lots of turkey vultures flying around, which are really cool birds, but it's always a little disconcerting when their giant shadow comes swooping over you on the trail. I wish I had some time to go further on the South Loop Trail or to check out more of the Forsman Trail, because I noticed on the Forsman Trail when it intersects the South Loop the second time, it looked like it went more to a single track normal hiking trail. And I'd like to see that, because from what I saw of these, they're not bad. They're just not anything real exciting. And I think the terrain never changes very much. And you're kind of on this big road walking through some forest land that never really changes. So I would think you would get pretty monotonous if it's like that the whole way through. But again, check out some of the reviews on All Trails and other apps, because people that have done more of this than I have in terms of the length of the trails probably have a better idea of what's out here. I would give you a word of caution when you're looking up stuff for trail reviews, camping reviews, whatever you're trying to get information for the Myakka State Forest. Be careful when you read stuff, because a lot of people will talk about amenities, activities, things to do that are not here at Myakka State Forest. And that is because they are confusing it with Myakka River State Park, which is a bit north of here. It's supposed to be a really popular park. I'm gonna try to get up there on my way back to Anna Maria Island to check it out, so I'll see for myself. But I noticed in a number of places where people were referencing things that are not here at Myakka State Forest. They're not here on these trails. They're not at this campground, at the Flying A campground. It's all stuff that they've seen or experienced at the state park north of here. Despite the trails being a little boring, this is a spot I would like to get back to and bring Jesse down here, especially for some of the camping. Camping at Flying A was really peaceful. They were nice sites. The cell service was decent. I don't know about a Verizon phone. People have reported that they have pretty bad service here on Verizon. I noticed on our Verizon Jetpack, we only had about 1 bar of service. When I hooked up the MIMO antenna, I got 2 to 3 bars of service, and the data speeds weren't terrible. They were a little slow, but they were enough that you could probably get some work done. I have a phone that uses T-Mobile, and that was bouncing between 4G and 5G the whole time. Not a lot of bars, but decent service. And then the T-Mobile Jetpack that we use had very good service. So if you're using T-Mobile down here, no problem getting work done at all. And in fact, that's part of why we now travel with 2 jetpacks, one from Verizon, one from T-Mobile, because I figure between the 2 of those, we're probably gonna get enough service to get work done for the most part. Although on this trip, as I noted, I'm headed into areas where I don't think you can get much of a signal in certain places. But we'll see, and that's part of why I am checking this out by myself, making notes and seeing what we want to do in terms of having Jesse come back the next time we're down in this area. Almost back to the trailhead in the parking area now, so I'm gonna end this video. I think I've covered everything I needed to cover anyway. If you get a chance to check out Myakka State Forest, I'd recommend it. A lot of people sort of ignore the state forests in many states, and they insist on looking at the state parks. And Yeah, a lot of times you're going to have to be self-sufficient for a night or two, but it's totally worth it if you want someplace quiet and you want someplace a little different than the crowded campgrounds you're used to seeing at the state parks or the RV parks. So remember, when it comes to camping and hiking and traveling, there are some different places out there that you may not have thought about that you should probably look into. In the meantime, keep on trekking, and we'll see you out there.